Welcome to the Improve and Have Fun podcast. My name is Paul V. Perez, and on this podcast, I work on improving myself while having fun along the way with the hopes of encouraging you to do the same. And I do so by documenting my life and interests. Weird stories for 2022, the beginning of 2022, and I haven't done one of these in a while. In 2021, I didn't do too many Weird Stories podcasts, but I hope to change that this year and do several more. In this episode, we're going to be talking about 6 weird stories, weird but true stories. And let's do this right now. And as always, please support this podcast by doing any or all of your Amazon shopping with the link provided in the notes for this video or in the show notes for this episode on the podcast feed, which you can find at any podcast feed that you get your podcast from, or most major ones anyway. If you find this information helpful or entertaining in any way, you can go ahead and also leave a tip. There's a link to do that in the, once again, description for this video, the notes for this podcast. You can do that through the Cash App, PayPal, Zelle. And finally, I always prefer to speak with you than get more subscribers and more likes. That stuff is all great, but I like to talk with you, and you can do that by commenting down below or doing so on the blog at improveandhavefun.com. And weird but true story number 1, and maybe this is more like an observation story. I just found it very interesting, where the headline, this is on the dailymail.com or the dailymail.co.uk. It is dated the 3rd of May. I've held on to these stories for quite some time, 2021, and it talks about the Chameleon Effect. The Chameleon Effect is the headline on this one particular article, and once again, I'll leave links to all these articles in the notes, in the description for this video, in the show notes for this episode. Are you a victim of the Chameleon Effect? Looking at your phone makes other people do the same, study finds. The subheadlines being, scientists find looking at your phone is enough to trigger someone to copy you. The study authors from Italy liken this to the contagious yawning phenomenon known as the Chameleon Effect. This may have evolved to assist group bonding. It's something similar to like when you're on the street and you kind of see other people all looking in one direction, and then you just kind of copy them and look in that same direction. Something very similar to that. I think it's just something humans do, right? But let me read you the first few lines from the article here. Looking at your phone makes other people nearby do the same in less than a minute, a new study reveals. Researchers in Italy investigated human mimicry, or the chameleon effect, subconsciously replicating the physical actions of another human. Out of 184 people, half replicated the action of touching and looking at their phone 30 seconds after a subconscious trigger, researchers found. The experts say copying smartphone use is similar to the well-known contagious yawning phenomenon, when an individual yawns in response to someone else doing so. Mammals have evolved to subconsciously mimic each other's behavior without knowing it. The practice is likely to assist with group bonding. I mean, as babies, right, that's how we learn how to do stuff, by maybe watching our parents, watching other family members, watching TV, just how to manage ourselves in society, I guess, right? But scrolling down to the bottom of the article here, I'll read the last few paragraphs. Sex, age, and relationship quality between the experimenter and the observer had no effect on the smartphone mimicry response. This was despite previous studies cited by the researchers that indicated young people, and particularly women, are heavy smartphone users during social interactions. Interestingly, mimicry tended to decrease during social meals, suggesting that when we have something more important to do, like eating, the urge to reach for our phone is less powerful. The next story here is on studyfinds.org, dated as well, May 3rd, 2021, and it talks about sex. And sex, it says, going solo. 2 in 3 say the best bedroom partner they've ever had is themselves. Reading a few of the paragraphs here. Is the best sex partner of your life staring at you in the mirror? 3 in 5 Americans say they've experienced an orgasm with a partner and have only reached bliss through masturbation. In fact, 44% even credit masturbation for a life epiphany or aha moment, akin to an amazing shower thought. The new study finds 2 in 3 Americans also think they're mind-blowing in bed and say that they've had their best orgasms solo. The poll of 2,000 sexually active Americans revealed the vital role masturbation plays in respondents' relationships with their bodies and their romantic encounters with others. 6 in 10 claim that they would rather masturbate than have sex with a partner. Wow. Now just scrolling down to the last few lines of the article here. Nearly half the poll, 46%, have purchased a sex toy as part of their self-exploration. However, a third of those respondents prefer to keep their toy use to themselves. Of respondents who don't use toys with partners, 3 in 5, 61%, said their partner wouldn't approve of toy use. Nearly 6 in 10 say they use toys by themselves because they prefer it that way, while 57% confess they don't even want their partner to know they have a toy. Interesting. I have a lot to say about this. I just think people are seeing it more and more these days, or there are more people just choosing to be alone. They'll have either a pet or, they maybe will take care of family or live with family, but they're just choosing not to get married, choosing not to engage in relationships. And it's not a great thing. I mean, it's like a Handmaid's Tale kind of scenario, or like who's giving birth to kids, if that's the case. And I've always thought that, and I could be completely wrong, it's maybe people with resources or just some form of resources that are choosing to kind of not marry because of the court system and how it favors women. And I'm not against women, I'm not saying that, but I mean, it's just a fact. And women maybe just not wanting to deal with men and just like hooking up, and women wanting more than just men who want to hook up kind of thing. I mean, it's a lot deeper than that, but this is becoming, I think, more and more of a thing where, like I said, more and more people are just not choosing to be in relationships. It doesn't surprise me that sex toys or like people masturbating more to themselves because they have this desire to want to orgasm. I mean, it's one of the best feelings in the world, right? It's that and food consumption are some of the best feelings in the world. I think this in more developed places, this is going to be a continuing thing where there's going to be less children born. There's going to be more people just doing for themselves. I've heard Coach Greg Adams, who talks a lot about things from more of a man's perspective, how to invest in wine companies and also in pet food products, because that's all that people are buying when they're single. It seems it's not all, but just very popular items that people buy when they're single and they choose to have pets or, like I said, drink a lot of wine or anything like that. But this is very interesting. I think this is a way of where things are headed, and I think that just poorer folk are the ones having children. Immigrants or people in other countries that are just have less resources are the ones that are having kids. But like I said, if you have any comments regarding this, please do comment down below. But definitely I used to see a lot more people not getting together or not having kids and just choosing to be single. And I'm one of those people. Let's go ahead and get into the next story here. 95-year-old might have found the key to longevity, a purposeful life. And this is dated May 14th, 2021. This is on MSN.com. All through the pandemic, while so many Americans have languished, feeling cooped up and searching for reasons to get out of their pajamas, Olga Murray has flourished. Approaching 96 at the age of when many of her peers are isolated and in poor health, she has been eagerly planning a trip to Kathmandu, capital of Nepal, while keeping in touch with hundreds of friends around the world who admire her boundless energy and perky habit of saying things like, "I feel so fortunate you can't imagine." Is it her good genes? Her mother lived to 98. Her daily salads and thrice weekly workouts? Or might it have something to do with the retired lawyer's second career as founder of a nonprofit organization that, among other achievements, has rescued nearly 13,000 young girls in Nepal from being trafficked or enslaved kitchen servants? Scientists increasingly are finding that some variation of that third factor, call it living with purpose, finding meaning in life, or just engaging with something larger than yourself, can be a particularly healthy pursuit. It's also relevant for older U.S. women who outnumber older men by about 6 million, and on average, at the age of 65, can expect to live roughly another 21 years, about 3 years longer than men. Go ahead and scroll down to the bottom of the article. Once again, I leave links to all these articles, these stories I'm reading to you, so that if you wanted to go ahead and dig deeper for yourself, you totally can. Murray says she hopes to congratulate Chowdhury in person when she returns to Nepal in October, assuming the pandemic there has waned. Before that, she'll keep busy as usual, leading a new fundraising campaign, celebrating Paneru's 25th work anniversary, and joining yet another international Zoom call in June for her 96th birthday. Hundreds are expected to attend. Interesting. Living a purposeful life. And I'm sure diet and exercise have something to do with it as well. I've read someplace else like having friends is very important as well, because kind of having friends, I've read at one place, like it changes your attitude. You won't talk to friends or just meeting new people the same way you would talk to somebody that you've known forever. Having friends, and according to this article, living a purposeful life, and like I said, a healthy diet, exercise, can give you some longevity. It's genes too, and according to this article. Let's go ahead and get into the next weird but true story. This article is from December the 1st, 2021, and it is on IGN, a website that I visit often, almost on a daily basis, to get kind of like entertainment, but mostly video game news. And the headline for this particular article is Living Robots called Xenobots can now reproduce. Scientists say so. Robots reproducing. Scientists who created the first living robots have revealed that the organisms known as Xenobots can now reproduce according to their study. Created using stem cells from the African clawed frog, Xenobots are less than 1 millimeter wide and can move, work together as a group, and even self-heal. But now the scientists who developed them have found that they can reproduce in an entirely new way, completely different from the biological reproduction of any living plant or animal. Wow. Scrolling down a little further in the article, stem cells are often used in medicine to replace damaged cells or to fight certain forms of cancer and blood-related diseases. However, their use as biological robots involved merely harvesting the cells from frog embryos and leaving them to incubate. This is a quote from one of the scientists that was interviewed. Most people think of robots as made of metals and ceramics, Bongard said. But it's not so much what a robot is made from, but what it does, which is an act on its own behalf of people. In a way, it's a robot, he added, but it's also clearly an organism made from genetically unmodified frog cell. Although the thought of self-replicating machines is reminiscent of the likes of the Terminator and Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the researchers are assured that these robots are contained in a lab and are both biodegradable and easily extinguished. You can tell that to COVID-19 and the Wuhan lab and all that other stuff, right? But the discovery of self-replicating robots opens up a new world of possibilities, a bit more useful than Elon Musk's their proposed humanoid robots. There are many things that are possible if we take advantage of these kind of plasticity and ability of cells to solve problems, Bongard said. The study was originally published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal PNAS on November 20th, 2021. Interesting. This next story is an older one. It's from January 2022, and it's from CNN.com. The headline being, Japanese businessman spends $1.8 million on massive tuna. Let's go ahead and do this article here. A Japanese sushi magnate has spent a staggering $1.8 million on a gigantic tuna fish at a New Year's auction at Tokyo's Toyosu Fish Market on Sunday. Kiyoshi Kimura, a self-described tuna king who runs the restaurant chain Sushi Zanmai, paid 193 million yen, which is about 1.8 million US, for a 608-pound bluefin tuna, Japanese public broadcaster NHK reported. Kimura's purchase, also costly, wasn't even the highest amount paid for a tuna. At last year's auction, the businessman paid a recorded $3.1 million for a 612-pound fish. This guy really likes tuna. The largest tuna was caught in Japan's northern Aomori Prefecture, NHK reported. Bluefin are the largest tuna and can live up to 40 years, according to the World Wildlife Fund. An endangered species, they migrate across all oceans and can weigh 1,500 pounds and reach 10 feet in length. That is one big-ass tuna. Jeez. Big freaking tuna. And the last story is on theinsider.com. That is, a Chinese hog farmer is breeding a giant polar bear-sized pigs, which weigh over 1,100 pounds, as the country contends with the pork shortages. Now, this is a much older story. This is from October the 6th, 2019. So I don't know if this pig shortage or pork shortage is still happening in China, but let me read you a few of the sub-headlines here. A hog farmer in China's Guangxi province is breeding pigs that weigh more than 1,100 pounds, making them the size of polar bears. Jeez. Bloomberg reports, pigs that size and bigger have been bred before, but usually end up dying from health complications. Pork shortages in China threaten the livelihoods of farmers who have had to kill a third of the country's pig stock because of the spread of the African swine flu. Some farmers are taking a breeding approach to grow larger pigs that sell for more money, while the Chinese government is encouraging farms to get back on track as soon as possible despite higher piglet and sow prices. The swine flu outbreaks in Asian countries may cause pork prices to rise around the globe. I'm going to read the last few paragraphs of the article here. Those are the subheadlines, but they cover a lot of what the story is talking about here. The Chinese government has warned that supply will be extremely severe in the first half of 2020 because of the shortages, with Chinese farmers having to kill a third of their supply. The pork shortage is estimated to reach 10 million tons. The outbreak prompted farmers to kill an estimated 250 million to 300 million animals in an attempt to stop the spread of the disease. Government officials are urging hog farmers to start normal production as soon as possible to increase the domestic supply of pork, but farmers are worried of contamination. In addition, the piglets and breeding sows are becoming more expensive in China as a result of the mass culling. The demand for pork is likely to cause global pork prices to rise as well. Very interesting. Yeah, just like how, and this happened definitely before the pandemic, so I could only imagine where this thing is now. Makes me kind of want to research this a little bit more. That's the end of this particular episode. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, as I said in the beginning, want to hear what you have to say? Do so below this video or do so on the blog at improveandhavefun.com. You're awesome. Thank you for watching. Peace.